Brian Orme, co-founder of Kingdom Broker, founder and CEO of Anomaly Ventures, co-founder of the non-profit Kingdom Straight, co-founder and CEO of Trisend LLC. He is an author, minister, and spiritual advisor who is passionate about empowering others to live an ascended life in Christ, become aware of the limitless kingdom, and encounter the Father's love. Brian has been a forerunner in ministry for the past 26 years, dedicating 22 years reaching students on secular universities. His out-of-the-box thinking, humor, love for people, and strategic and prophetic insight has brought him across the US and the world to connect with churches, ministries, business leaders, and more. Here is Brian Orme.
Brian, what would you say to the general public about cryptocurrency?
I think it's a way to opt out of the centralized banking system and to be in control, fully in control of your own finances. You know, if you think of the central banking system, I mean, it is, of course, centralized and it's very controlled. And I don't know if you've ever tried to do a big wire out of your bank. It's a hassle. And, you know, what they'll begin to say is like, where are you putting, where are you sending this money? Are you sure? Like, they're trying to prevent you from doing this, which just reveals they don't really want your money coming out. And so when I think of crypto, to me, it's really about freedom of monetary movement. And I think this is especially important for people that are under, regimes around the world that, their money can be seized. And when it comes to crypto, it's like, well, it's outside of those hands. It's outside of the jurisdictions of governments to seize, at least for now. And I think that's really powerful.
Would you say cryptocurrency is for everyone?
I think so. I think just about anyone in the world can have a use case for this. If you think of Bitcoin in particular, and I don't see Bitcoin as a currency, by the way, I see it as property. It functions more with a store of value than, people aren't spending Bitcoin. They're just holding it as a store of value. If I live in Venezuela, for example, I can't own property. I'm not going to be able to. But I could own Bitcoin, which is like property. So I feel like it's affording people, anyone in the world, to have the opportunity to own property that over time will increase in value. And again, I think that's extremely powerful, especially for people that will never have this opportunity, in the sense of what we might see in our own countries where, I can get some land or get a property myself if I want. Well, we forget a lot of places they can't do this. It's just not possible. Not just because they don't have money, it's like they can't. And so to me, this is a powerful tool for people to preserve wealth in environments that in normal circumstances would be highly difficult.
What advice would you give someone who is interested in getting started with cryptocurrency?
I think learning first about Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's the first, it's the granddaddy, it's the beginning of it all. Learning how Bitcoin works. There is some level of complexity there, of course, but when you really begin to understand what it is, it's actually really powerful. And so there are many other currencies, about 22,000 currencies, cryptocurrencies. A lot of them are trash, some are scams, some won't do anything, and then there's gems inside of there that will be amazing, not just from a price action standpoint, but they're solving problems. And I think this is a big piece where blockchain comes in. And so if you can begin to understand how blockchain works and how that's connected, not just to crypto, but really to every industry in the future, you understand this. It's still early. There's still a lot of room to get involved in this. And so becoming more literate, I think, is the biggest piece to begin with. I think the second is, finding someone maybe who has some experience being involved, and how do you get it on an exchange, and how do you move stuff around, things like that. It is a volatile space in the short term. So in short-term time frames, and this is what people kind of miss, is they're like, well, I got into crypto for 3 months and I lost my money. And it's like, well, 3 months is not that long. But if you look at, like, since COVID, for example, Bitcoin's up 800%. 800%. I mean, it's, for the past 10 years, it's destroyed every asset in performance. Nothing gets close. I mean, and this is why big money's coming in, is they're recognizing this is like a real asset that's outperforming everything else in longer time frames. And so, the risk, there was actually a recent study just came out. I found it super fascinating. There's a data scientist that did this study where he said, this is what would happen if you bought Bitcoin at its peak in a cycle, at the highest price, and then you sold at the lowest price. So like the worst timing on both ends. He said over 3 years, you would break even. At 3.5 years, you would be making money. That would outpace the S&P. And at the 4-year mark, you would be outpacing everything else. And so when you look at longer time frames, like it's just, if you hold, it's a win. So the risk is more on the shorter time frames when it comes to Bitcoin and Ethereum. Outside of those coins, there's definitely risk in smaller coins. And so my encouragement for people is, they're like, well, how much money should I put in, this random coin or this meme coin? And I'm like, well, just put in what you're willing to lose. Like if you lose it, it's not the end of the day. But if it 100x's, like, hey, you'll be celebrating on your rooftop with your friends, right? And so it's like, I want to position myself in the high risk areas with what I'm willing to lose. I understand Bitcoin, Ethereum. If I hold, it's just going to go up and to the right, just because it's in Bitcoin's case, it's absolute scarcity. And the last piece I'll say is this, because I think it's really important. People say, well, I should get into gold or I should get into real estate. And real estate's great. Gold is, I think, a horrible investment. It just doesn't perform very well. It's not even taxed here in the US as an investment. It's taxed as a collectible. But Bitcoin perfects all the qualities of gold. And the reason it does this is if I want to get more gold, or we want to get more gold as a collective, we just go get one. We dig it up. And then when we figure out how to do this in outer space, where there's way more gold, like in asteroids, they're filled with gold. Like when we learn how to do this and extract it from there, it's like there's a ton of gold out there. Tons and tons of gold. If we want more real estate, we just build on more land. Like we can build more homes, we can build more apartment complexes. With Bitcoin, you can't get any. Like it's the only asset in the world that you cannot make anymore. Like there's only going to be 21 million, that's it. And then you think of all the Bitcoin that's lost, that people have lost, it's less than that. And so when it's all said and done and every Bitcoin has been mined, that's it. And when you look at absolute scarcity, we've never had an asset that's had that. We've always been able to get more. And so the price action of Bitcoin in the future is going to be crazy. It's just simply because there's no more. And so my encouragement is, at the very least, have some level of exposure to Bitcoin.
Brian, how do you envision the role of cryptocurrencies evolving in the next decade, especially in the mainstream finance and global economies?
Yeah, so this year we had Bitcoin ETFs approved for the first time, spot ETFs, that is. And so this is allowing really big money, BlackRock, Fidelity, these big entities that have massive AUM, to bring exposure to their clients. This is going to open up pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, insurance companies, across the board. Money that has not been able to get in to spot Bitcoin ETF is now able to get in. And it was interesting because, there's debate, like, are people going to use these ETFs? And they're the best performing ETFs in history. They've destroyed every ETF's performance. It's amazing how much money came in right away. And we have to keep in mind, they haven't even gotten to most of their clients yet. And all that's coming. And so, to me, the use case that big traditional finance is seen as a store of value for Bitcoin, it's being seen now. And I think this year, 2024, we'll see a sovereign wealth nation publicly announce they are accumulating Bitcoin. And when that happens, it is going to be crazy, because that gives a level of permission to a lot of other entities, a credibility, because, hey, this is a sovereign wealth fund that's actually getting in on this. Outside of that, I think it's the blockchain I see the most impact. Blockchain's going to be, and it's being utilized in many industries now. But every industry is going to utilize blockchain. Now, some will be centralized, some will be decentralized. You'll have different use cases, but supply chain and healthcare, and I mean, just down the line, there's a use case here that's extremely powerful. And I think, again, getting in on a technology that's very disruptive early, like crypto, because it does utilize blockchain, like, you're just going to win. Like, the adoption curve is moving way faster than the internet did. And we know with the internet and how much that has changed the world. And so I'm excited to see, especially decentralized environments, empowering people and empowering systems, and really taking the controls, the manipulative controls out of the equation.
We would like to end this interview with 2 questions. The first question is, if you could live your life over again, what is one thing that you would do differently?
I would want to live connected to my heart, because it would have impacted my relationships in a much deeper way. Living disconnected affects us at so many different levels, and doing that for over 3 decades, I wish I could have gone back, and what would my relationship have looked like in my family, my friendships, and workplace if I was fully present in my connection.
And our final question today, Brian, what is one key message that you could give us today that our listeners could apply practically in their lives this week?
I think in relation to our conversation today, I would say set up on a crypto exchange. So if you're in America, Coinbase is going to be the easiest, coinbase.com. If you're outside of America, there's other options like Binance.com is for non-US citizens. It's the largest crypto exchange in the world. Set up an account, they're free, and just put a little bit of money in there and begin to see what can happen. And with that, just become financially literate. It's one thing to just survive in life, and God wants us to live in abundance. And if we're going to do that, we have to become literate and understand how the monetary system works, so that we can effectively and legally hack the system to prosper.
Thank you for your time, Brian.
Absolutely. Thank you.